I just signed into law the national security package that was passed by the House of Representatives this weekend and by the Senate yesterday. It's going to make America safer. It's going to make the world safer. And it continues America's leadership in the world, and everyone knows it.
Okay, so on Wednesday morning, President Joe Biden signed into law a bill that could ban TikTok. But it's not like the app is going to disappear from your phones immediately, and there's a few reasons why. First off, what the legislation says is that the Chinese parent company of TikTok, which is called ByteDance, they would have 9 months to sell the app. If they can do that, then there's no problem. TikTok will not disappear, but if they can't do it in that timeline, then it will be banned. So 9 months means the earliest that would happen would be January of 2025. And even then, the president would have the option to extend that by 3 months if it looked like there was progress towards a sale. Then there's the separate avenue of, well, TikTok intends on likely suing the US government over this legislation. That could hold things up if a court decides, well, we're just going to review this and stave off the ban while we take a look at the legal merits of this case. So all of which is to say TikTok's not going to disappear from your phones immediately, but yes, the threat of TikTok disappearing is certainly out there with the president having signed this bill. Okay, so
hi everyone, it's Show here. As you may have heard, Congress passed a bill that the president signed into law that is designed to ban TikTok in the United States. That will take TikTok away from you and 170 million Americans who find community and connection on our platform.
Yeah. The way I laughed when I saw this, because it's so true. China blocks Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, any companies that are American companies. China has always blocked, and they've never allowed in their own country. And even TikTok, TikTok is heavily, heavily censored in China itself. They really don't allow TikTok in China. So even they don't use TikTok. So it's just so funny to me when people that don't really know about the state of the world from a global economical state get so upset and emotionally distraught over something that we probably shouldn't have been allowed in the first place. America is too lenient. It's almost like having to parent these teenagers, hence Russia, China, they're like teenagers. It's like, how are you going to be so upset, complaining, trying to use the American system to sue America when none of your stuff, you don't allow any of America's stuff in your own country? It doesn't even make sense to me from any standpoint, right? But I suppose because America has always been, for the most part, for most of time, a superpower, and so a lot of these little things, it's just like, okay, whatever. But now the one ban on TikTok, China is like crying. You have American citizens crying about TikTok that I ain't never seen you speak up as loudly for human rights or for women's rights. Like, you don't yell as loudly for those things, but yet you want to sit here and oh, woe is me over an app, a TikTok app. Like, huh? And that's coming from a content creator that uses TikTok to create her content. So I actually have a legit reason to be freaking out if I were to be freaking out about this particular issue. So y'all, that's just kind of where I stand. Did you know that China doesn't even allow WhatsApp? They don't even allow WhatsApp in their country, y'all. So let's be so for real. Let's kind of learn about the current state of countries and these political subjects, because it's not even that big of a deal. It's like, I don't even know why China is crying. Like, the one thing that America is like, no, you can't have that candy anymore because you misused it, or there is too much of a likelihood that you will, right? You either sell it over here, okay, Crocs, oh my God. It's like, just sell it. If you're not using the content anyway, if you're not using the private information anyway, then sell it to the US. And then, and in that way, you make money off of it. You continue to make money off of it, and problem solved, right? The US has control over their own information. It doesn't even make sense, y'all, but.
Yes, shit.
Americans could face 20 years in jail for using a VPN to access TikTok if it's banned. That's the Restrict Act, which means you literally get more time in jail for accessing TikTok or even using a VPN than you would for mass unalivement. That's the United States.
And I don't really have a sentimental attachment to TikTok. I couldn't care less. Like, all the information I put on there as far as like contact info is not my real contact info. So because I would hate for China to end up with my stuff. And apart from when I log in to make these videos, I'm typically not on TikTok, to be honest with you, but that's just because I'm fairly introverted. I hate to see kiddos here in the United States yell about TikTok being banned and how the government doesn't do anything for wages, women's right. I hate to see kiddos yell about that, but I don't really see them backing up their statements either. It's like, you're pointing fingers at the government, but when it comes time to actually yell and yell and yell for a different cause, such as increasing wages or preserving women's rights. Y'all don't yell nowhere even close to as loud as you're yelling for this TikTok. So it's kind of like the pot calling the kettle black,
TikTok gets banned in America. It's actually a good thing for us because everyone's going to be confused where all the attention goes. I'll give you a bigger one. Forget about TikTok. If all 9 social networks disappeared tomorrow, I would be thrilled because the attention has to go somewhere. I'm not emotional about the distribution product. I'm emotional about common sense and attention. Social media just happens to be the place where the attention is now. If this was a 1968 conversation, I would be screaming at the top of my lungs about how important television commercials are. Anytime there's a shift of attention, we have grown.
Okay, so this is nuts, y'all. I don't understand why TikTok is getting banned, but Meta can collect and sell our data to anyone, anywhere. Probably because the US government has control of Meta and they don't have control of TikTok, so that's why they don't want it. But TikTok has more united, unedited factual information of real-time events than any other news outlet out there. Well, the bottom line is TikTok is destroying its competition and they just can't have that. This guy probably has stocks in both Meta and Google. I learned more real history on TikTok than in public school. It is the people who should decide what they want to watch and what they don't want to watch, not you or the government. He has shares on Facebook. That's why he doesn't care. How would we find the truth and learn stuff in real time? Hola, mis amores, ¿cómo están? Hi, my loves, how are you doing today? So I guess, I don't know. I actually don't think this is a negative thing. Now, what I will say is it is not because they care about the people and the US population. It's obvious that it's not because they really care about the people here. It's a control play. And I think if you watch content and read information on the state of the world, and when I mean the state of the world, kind of watching and keeping track of moves that countries are making, then you'll know that it is actually it's getting quite intense between China and the United States. So a lot of the big countries, a lot of the big players are restricting a lot of things, and they are no longer wanting to collaborate with each other because there's a power play. And I believe from what I've been seeing or researching, this all started because we're starting to see that China is making some weird moves, right? So they are making some moves that leads us to believe that they plan to potentially threaten with war and potentially, try some weird takeover thing. So I think that, the US is freaking out, but it doesn't even make sense to me because they're using excuses that aren't true. It's like, I don't understand why you are lying to this extent and with lies that don't make sense. Oh, it's to protect your privacy. Facebook is the absolute worst. Instagram is the absolute worst. I started using VPNs on my phone, on my computers. Google is absolutely horrid. Google is the absolute worst out of all of them because Google is it's like having someone behind you, directly behind you, literally following you everywhere you go and taking notes in everything you do. And they will mask that as convenience, right? Because every time you log in, it will automatically populate your password. It will automatically, how does it know all these things? Because it's tracking every single one of your moves and it's selling that data or doing who knows what with all of your information. So Google, in my opinion, is worse than all of these platforms combined, but I don't hear them talking about banning Google to protect the people's information, right? So the problem I have with it is they're liars. I also have another problem in that I make videos. I make videos with TikTok videos. What the heck are we going to do about that? Right. So I guess I'm going to have to figure it out. We're going to have to figure out what we're going to do here. But when it comes to that, because it's highly inconvenient for me, being that, the videos that are formatted are using TikTok videos, because TikTok videos shows different perspectives. It shows the people speaking on different topics, comments, and it's very much an app that is in real time, right? At least compared to any other applications that we currently have, such as Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, Google being the worst of the worst. Google has a complete monopoly on the web for the most part, and the government doesn't even really have any control in that jurisdiction. But I'm sure on the back end, that's because Google is funding some favorite things for them, such as their payroll, right? So anyway, I don't think it's a bad thing. I think because the tensions between countries, especially between these big companies, tensions between them are intensifying. And I would not be surprised if we end up in some type of war in a few months or even a few years, because they are really, really duking it out. Yeah, like they're duking it out for power and control, because they are starting to see that some of the moves China is making are, a little bit suspect. So everyone's freaking out. Our prices are going up because the government is trying to invest in a lot of things that involve power plays across the world. I think that's one of the reasons why. Not that it's the only one or anything like that. So it's kind of a mess when you zoom out. Now, when I went in to do a cleanse of my my online presence, right? Because I used to use Google and not even think twice about it. From what I saw, Google is the worst out of all of them. But yet we're not banning Google. It's like I don't really understand that. You know what I mean? So y'all, this is insane. This is going to affect and change a lot of things, but I think we'll adapt.
It's done. The bill that will essentially ban TikTok has just passed the United States House of Representatives. And it wasn't even close. But before you freak out, this is not over. TikTok is not going anywhere just yet. This bill is not going to become law today. So I'm going to explain what's next in a second, which is very important. But first, the final vote on H.R. 7521, the Protecting Americans from Foreign Adversary-Controlled Applications Act, was 352 to 65. One member voted present. The Republicans got this over the finish line with 197 yes votes and 155 Democrat yes votes. 50 Democrats voted no, and so did 15 Republicans. 14 members were not voting on this bill today. Now, because of the special procedures used to fast-track this bill to the House floor, the bill needed 2/3 majority, which obviously you can see it got. Now, here's the thing. This bill will now move on to the United States Senate, and in order for it to become a law, it has to pass in the Senate, and then the president has to sign it. President Biden has already said he will sign this bill if it gets to his desk, so that's not a question. But what is a question is whether this bill can get the 60 votes it needs to pass in the Senate. Right now, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer says he's not in any rush to fast-track this bill the way they did in the House. He said this bill will face the normal Senate timing, which includes several procedural votes and more than 30 hours of debate on the Senate floor. On top of this, the Senate is going to be on recess 3 of the next 6 weeks, and they quite honestly have bigger fish to fry right now, including the budget bill to avoid a government shutdown on March 22nd and funding for Ukraine and Israel, which is really important to the Senate Majority Leader. Now, I also want to make it very clear, supporters of this bill keep stressing over and over and over again, this is not a ban on TikTok. They say this bill just simply forces the Chinese-owned parent company of TikTok, ByteDance, to divest or sell its interest in TikTok to another company the U.S. government determines is not owned by a foreign adversary.
Yeas are 352, the nays are 65.
There you have it. TikTok's banned. They passed the bill. You know what's happening? September 9th, 2024 is the target. We need to get our shit together and unite before this happens. Otherwise, if they take this platform away, I don't know where we can go. In the comments below, what other platform should we go to? Leave your comments.
But anyways, y'all, leave it in the comments below. Let me know what your thoughts are on this one. I know a lot of you are going to say, no, they can't take away TikTok. You're not right. You're not correct. I know a lot of you might not agree with me on my standpoint on this one, but I would love to hear your thoughts anyway, because as you know, if you've been following me on my channel, a pretty diverse group over here. Really, the only way to not be included, maybe not even included, but the fastest way for us to not necessarily be able to take you seriously here on my channel is if you're a male, you know what I mean? And or if what you're saying just doesn't even make any sense. Just kidding. Y'all, leave it in the comments below. I'll see y'all in the next one. Smash that like button for me. Smash that subscribe button for me. All right. Thank you so much. Love you so much. And I'll see y'all in the next one. Bye-bye.